Are you ready to stop riding the emotional elevator of life? Are you ready to learn how to elevate your emotions that keep you psychologically traumatized or in an addictive behavior? You are in the right place. Here is your host, Sandee Byrd, trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach of the Emotional Elevator Show.
Welcome. Tonight is a big night. I am Sandee Byrd on Inspired Choices Network. This is Emotional Elevator, and tonight's topic is envy and jealousy. Why are we jealous and envy? Some people are more jealous and envious of others, but as I always like to talk about on my shows, these are all topics. All my topics are topics that I, in my own life, have overcome. And all these topics I talk about on my show are topics that I overcome, and now I help other people overcome. And that's why I decided to change my life and become a coach, because when I realized and recognized all the challenges that I faced and started overcoming, how wonderful would it be to be able to help others overcome these challenges in their life or struggles, however you want to word it. They are almost all my topics, some of them not, but we all have had these moments in our life. And sometimes we get fixated on these moments, and sometimes we know how to elevate these moments. And that's exactly what I do as a coach is I give people, my clients, even friends, the tools or the guidance or the support to work on these areas in our life. And this area, for some people, this is kind of not the big area in their life. But sometimes jealousy and envy is a big part of their life. And it all depends on if you were raised around a lot of jealousy and envy, which I was, which, as you have heard, coming from addiction, being raised around addiction to obsession, to being part of cold mother syndrome, and being part of the cold mother syndrome, even me as a mother and having a mother that way, I was always envious of other mothers. Why are they so great? I mean, how are they not, how do they look this way? Well, that's envy. And how many people do that? Do we spend time comparing ourselves to others? Do you scroll through social media daily and compare yourself to everybody? Why? Because a lot of times those are just pictures to cover up some of what's underneath. And that's a big thing when it comes to envy and jealousy. And I'm actually going to read the definitions of envy and jealousy, because we seem to say the word jealousy sometimes when we mean to say the word envy. And then I'm going to dive into a lot of part of my life that deals with jealousy and envy, and other clients too that have said things to me which are definite signs of envy and jealousy. And how do we overcome that? How do we work on that within ourselves? Because that is big. And this is one of those things that jealousy and envy can lead to obsession or addiction. Jealousy and envy can lead to trauma. Our trauma can lead to the jealousy and envy. So, like I said, I am an expert on the topics I talk about. I just stumbled. I am an expert on the topics I talk about. And the reason I am an expert is because these are a lot of challenges that I've overcome in my life. Have I 100, am I 100% healed? No. But when I recognize that I'm going into these patterns that I had in my life, I know exactly how to approach it. So envy is, and I am looking down at my little note card. Envy is the desire to have a quality, possession, or other desirable attribute belonging to someone else. Okay. A desire to have a quality, possession, or other desirable attribute belonging to someone else. That's envy. Now, jealousy, threatened, protective, or fearful of losing one's position or situation to someone else, being possessive of someone or something. So that's what jealousy and envy is. And I can tell you, a lot of my life, that's the way I lived my life, in that jealous, not so much jealousy, but more envy. Envious of everyone's perfect relationship, envious of other mothers whose kids were behaved better, envious of, okay, I am on Inspired Choices Network. When I came to Inspired Choices Network, I was attracted to Christina's style of doing things. But was I envious? Oh, not particularly. And the reason I wasn't envious, but okay, so let's go back a little bit. 2, 3 years ago, I would have been very envious because I would have desired the quality, I would have desired the possession and the attribute she had to run a podcast, a station, a live. We would have been envious of that. But now I realize, no, I'm not envious of that. I am very intrigued by her knowledge to run such a successful network. I'm intrigued by that. But am I really envious of it? Do I want to run a podcast network? Nope, I don't. And that's the first step to starting to realize sometimes when we're so envious of other people, do we really want to be those people? Do we really want to be? Do I want a lot of the challenges she faces with all of us hosts and the different personalities and everything? No, I don't. Because coaching, I kind of have that already. So why would I want to take on something else? So that's what I'm saying. But when I first became a coach, when I got my life coaching, my death doula, all my certificates, oh gosh, I just started getting certificates after certificates. I started really realizing that I was envious of other people and the certificates they had. So I went and got more certificates. I wasn't building on client base. I wasn't building on the coach I wanted to be. I was envious of what other people were doing. So I built on them. I built what I saw of them and not what I wanted for myself. So that is envy. Now, jealousy, as I've talked about on the show, I have lived through domestic violence. I lived through trauma with my own mother, who was jealous, and I can say that was very jealous of any relationship I had outside of her. And the reason why I can use the word jealous is because she always was threatened by me. Maybe it was my youth. Maybe it was because I don't, I don't know. I mean, that's a side of it. I don't know. Um, but I also know that being in domestic violence relationships, that the people I was with was jealous because they were threatened that someone else was going to come along and take me. So I knew that they were very jealous of other people. And if somebody else looked at me different, they felt threatened. They felt like if that guy, or even I remember, I do remember a situation where one of my exes that I dealt with domestic violence with, a girl he knew who was gay was kind of hitting on me, flirting with me. And he was jealous of that. Never was I ever, you know, said I was bisexual or gay or anything like that, but he got very extremely jealous. And there ended up being an episode that night. I call them episodes now. It's kind of like a movie. Don't have to continue to live them. They were an episode. I'm on a different episode in my life. But there was an episode that night where, because he felt so threatened by the attention I was receiving from somebody else, that his jealousy kicked in and therefore his rage kicked in. And therefore, there was an episode between us, and that, transpired in violence. But there was many a times too, even with my own mother, as I speak, where she was jealous of relationships I had, even though my mom had tons of friends. Trust me, my mother had more friends than I've ever had. They were drinking friends, but she was so jealous of my friendships, and I guess was so threatened that one day I would leave her, which I did. I grew up, and that's what we're supposed to do when we grow up, that she would tell my friends in high school all these things that I would say that I would never say. And that was because she was jealous. Was she jealous because I authentic relationships because they weren't involved around any drugs or drinking? They were actually good relationships that maybe she never had. So she felt a threat there with that. So that is what jealousy, a side of jealousy, and envy is. And envy is when we go through that social media, and I'm acting like I'm holding up my phone and we're dialing through that social media and we're like, wow, there, oh my gosh, look how attractive she is. And think about it. How many of us are envious of such other features of other people that we go and we do things to ourselves to achieve what we think is good looking, what we think is the best bodies, what we think we should look, act like, be like? How many of us have done that? I can tell you, like I said, this is one of my attributes that I changed within myself and that I work with other clients on changing, because it is all those stereotypes that we put out there that makes us envious of others. Because I do remember after, I know a lot of people say, oh gosh, I would love to be a star. I would love to be a star. I'd love to have people just, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I just, that's just not something in my cards. And I'm going to explain why, for me, being a star, any of that, because we all at some point in our life probably want to be a star. And when I started not ever wanting that in my life, and I'm going to dive into that more as we get into our show. But like I said, everything I talk about relates some way in our lives, because my mother being so envious of her. So my mother was very envious of her sisters because they had great marriages, great husbands. She was very envious, more so of one of her sisters than the other because of her husband. And it even got me envious of wanting that relationship in my life because it was something she wanted. She wanted that perfect marriage, but she was so fixated on the envy of her sisters that she never thought she could have that. And that's sometimes what we end up doing when we are envious of others, is that we're blocking ourselves from attaining that as well. So think about that. If you were so envious, scrolling through that social media, looking at other people, walking around going, oh gosh, I would love to have that. Do you realize that what you are doing is giving them the positive, and you're not thinking you can obtain that? Because that's where that self-worth and that self-value comes from, is when we're envious, so envious of other people that we don't see our own reasons to be envious of ourselves. We don't see our own qualities, great qualities we have within ourselves. What we do is we see the great qualities of others that we're only seeing externally sometimes, not seeing internally. Because that's what we do when we scroll through social media and we see the perfect couple and we say, oh, I wish we were like that. But we don't know what happens on the inside, but we still get envious of them, because that's what envy is. And envy starts to poison us from really going for what we want because we think that we can't achieve what somebody else has achieved. So, gosh, it's already time for our first break. And tonight, I am talking about envy and jealousy. And like I said, these topics that I'll talk about seem to blend in and correlate. And that's why I'm an expert on these topics because these are challenges, struggles I've overcome in my life, and that I work with clients on working on overcoming. Because when you can overcome a lot of what I talk about on my show, from obsession to addiction to trauma responses to whole mother syndrome to jealousy and envy, just think how much lighter, how brighter, how you can smile through life because now you're becoming who you are and you're lifting your own self up and you're not lifting other people by admiring them because that's what you do when you're envious. Is what you're doing is you're lifting other people up. You're giving them your value, your power. So we are going to go on our first break. I, of course, am Sandee Byrd, and you are listening to me on Emotional Elevator on the Inspired Choices Network. So stay tuned for some more valuable information on envy and jealousy.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. I need to be careful. I keep hitting my mic with my magic wand. So I'm sorry if I just hurt your eardrum from hitting the wand on the mic. Anyway, I'm talking about envy and jealousy and how it can affect our lives when we are envious and jealousy. And a lot of times that does come from the way we were brought up, especially if you have parents that are very envious or jealous of other people, or if you have a parent that is jealous of you. And I've gone over the definition, and what envious it really is you want something that somebody has, a quality. You desire what they have. So that perfect relationship, you desire that. The fame, the fortune, you desire that. And jealousy is like you're fearful that you're going to lose something to someone. So sometimes we're jealous of, yes, our husband, but then we become possessive of them. And that's what jealousy is. And envy, think about this. You are giving your power away to somebody else to build them up when we're envious of others. When we sit there and continue to scroll through social media or we're on TV or something and we're like, oh, I just wish I could look like Jamie Lee Curtis, which I was told when I was in my early 20s because of my short hair. I look like Jamie Lee Curtis. Wow. But no, I didn't envy everything about that at all. But it's when we want to look and be like other people that we are giving our power away and we're not showing value within ourselves or worthiness within ourselves. It's because we lack that self confidence. We lack that self worth and value, and we're giving it away to other people. Because how many times, and hello, I'm raising my hands, have you gone through and seen the perfect couple? Oh gosh, I wish we were like them. They are the perfect couple. I mean, look how good they look together. Look how good they act. She laughs at his jokes, which aren't even funny. And oh my gosh, he just dotes on her in front of us. And oh my, and you keep going and going and going. And then 2 months later, they're separated. And you're like, wait a minute, how is that so? They are perfect. Oh my gosh, what about us? And then you start comparing yourself to them, especially if you're in a relationship and you compare yourself to other people's relationships. We don't know what happened behind closed doors. It's the same thing as, and this is something I was going to talk about. We all at one point in our life see someone, whether it's a cartoon character like Snow White or anything, and we want to be the swept off our feet by the prince or, the knight in shining armor or whatever. And then we don't get that, but we're so envious of that. We are now wanting to be something that just wasn't meant for us. But we can have what the perfect relationships. There's not really a perfect relationship, but we can have great relationships if we stop wanting to compare what we think is a great relationship. So what I was talking about is always wanting to be a star or anything like that. We've all probably, I hope everyone's wanted to be there. If not, I really don't hope. Be great to know people didn't envy stars or athletes or look up to all these people and want to be them. So I, of course, at one point wanted to be a star. I was a great singer. Well, then after I got into one of my big domestic violence relationships and I couldn't go out, at one point I had to have a guard, someone with me at all times because this and I was part of stalker laws now for the country. Um, yes, I was. I'm one of the many people that the stalker laws came in effect for. But um during that, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go anywhere. There was times where I was at home by myself and I sat there in the house, not being able to live. And I just remember thinking, if this is what stars go through, I never want to be a star. As much as I saw the fame and the fortune, but when I couldn't literally walk outside, I sat in a house some hours during the day, like just not using a TV or sitting on the floor because I didn't want to be seen in the house because I was afraid. I lost that part of envy. I didn't want to be somebody. I didn't want to have people with me in order to go to the store. I didn't want to sit there and always look over my shoulder because I did that for years. And after I had my son, there were some moments where I couldn't even go out of the house with him. And here I had a baby and I can't show him off to the world. I have to hide. So no, I'm not envious of any star, anyone, a president, or anyone like that because I know what it felt like not to want to go out because you're afraid someone might recognize you. And oh my gosh, what if I go to dinner and that person finds out I'm out here? So I lived that part of non envy at a certain point, but it still stuck with me. And I was envious of other people. I was envious sometimes of women bosses that were maybe even older than me, but were above me. I also dealt with a lot of jealousy in the workplace because I got higher positions because of my empathy and because of my drive and because I am, still am, because I can say it, I can manage something. And I am a damn good manager. And I can say that about myself. So when it came to envy, yes, there were times where I was envious of others, but then I started realizing I don't really want to be where they're at, especially when I had kids. I want to be able to take the time for myself. So that's when I started realizing that we can shift how we look and feel about people, especially like I was saying, when I was not in a great, healthy marriage. And then I wanted to be these other couples that I thought were the best couples. Wow, she's laughing at his dumb jokes and he's oohing and on over her and they're giggling together. And look at them. Look at the pictures of them. Look at their pictures around their house. They're the perfect couple. Look at their house. They're perfect. And then all of a sudden, they're getting a divorce and they're living in apartments. And that's when I learned sometimes what we think we see is not what we really see. And that's when I started realizing, why am I so envious of other people? And then I ended up in therapy and I've had a coach, and I started realizing I can change that. I can be envious of myself because when we really start getting envious, think about all some of the cosmetic stuff we do to ourselves because we're envious. Oh, there's things I want to change about myself, but then I'm not me anymore. Think about that. If there's so many things you want to change about yourself, you're not really you anymore. You're a doll. I mean, unfortunately, you hear stories, and I've watched Botched, I think it is, the Botched, and some of them have like, oh, well, I wanted to look like a Barbie, or I wanted to look like Kim Kardashian. I wanted her butt. Think of all the things we've done to alter the way we were born and to look and be like somebody else. Is that going to make you feel better? It's not. Because, yeah, I understand there's some things cosmetically that we do, but is it going to make you love yourself anymore? No, you're just going to be more envious of the next thing. It's when you truly, truly stop looking at everybody else and you start really loving yourself, looking in a mirror and being able to talk to yourself the way you talk to them about the way they look or the way they act or the way they talk. And you know what? We can all get singing lessons and become singers. You can get dancing lessons and become a dancer. The days of having to be pencil thin are gone because I remember that was big when I was in my 20s. In order for me to be patio bartender that wore a tennis skirt, I had to be a size, I'm going to say I was a size 4, size 6. I had to look a certain way. I had to make sure I was perky. I had to make sure my hair was perfect. I had to make sure that I was the blonde one. I had to make sure that I smiled. And then I realized I was being something I wasn't too. But other people were envious of me. And I don't ever want people to be envious of me. I want people to be themselves, to love themselves. I mean, think about how much happier would you be if you looked at everybody else and said, yeah, they're all beautiful, but I'm beautiful too. And how many of us really, really do that? How many of us don't pick up a magazine? I'm at 55 years old and don't go, oh, she lost 20 pounds. Let me see how I can lose 20 pounds. Or, wow, I wonder what makeup she's using. And then we start buying it and realizing it's not doing anything for us. Well, let me go get Botox. And then something happens wrong. Why are we so uncomfortable with ourselves that we want to look and be like other people? So it is time for my second break. And again, you're listening to Sandee Byrd on Emotional Elevator on Inspired Choices Network. And if you want to reach out to me, my email is posted, sandy@emotionalelevator.com. But there's other ways to reach me. You can reach me on my personal coaching email, which is Sandy sandeebirdcoach@gmail.com. Yes, I was saying that completely backwards. sandeebirdcoach@gmail.com. My website, Sandee Byrd. I used to want that fancy name, was envious of all these other coaches that had these. I was called the Spirit Owl for a while there because the owl and I have a connection. Then I decided, be who I really want to be. And I want to be Sandee Byrd because that's who I am. And I love Sandee Byrd. And I don't want to be anybody else because I'm happy with who I am. But after our break, I'm going to talk about how you can start to elevate yourself and how, as I work with clients who this is one of the areas that they struggle with, what we do to elevate our emotions, what we do to start elevating ourselves so we aren't envious, or if we're jealous, how we can start creating the love within ourselves so we aren't jealous or envious. So it's time for that break. We're going to go to that break. And thank you for joining me again on Emotional Elevator. I am Sandee Byrd.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back. We've been talking the first half of this show all about what envy and jealousy is and how to recognize envy and jealousy and to stop scrolling through that phone, stop scrolling social media and comparing ourselves to everybody else. Start being happy with yourself and realizing that we are who we are. And when you start loving yourself and embracing yourself, you realize that some of the things you're envious of, you really never cared for. It was something behind it. Maybe you saw something within somebody else that you really wanted. But we have it all within us to love ourselves, embrace ourselves as we are. because the cosmetic industry has become a $1 billion industry because of this envy and this jealousy and this lack of. Because the biggest thing I'm going to tell you when it comes to envy and jealousy, because we lack our own self control. We lack, I'm going to poke myself in the neck with my poor wand. We lack self worth. We feel like, well, let me get my lips done. Let me correct my little bit of tooth gap here. And I sometimes see it dark. Let me correct that because it'll make me what? You're going to listen to me more? Now, if you do listen to me, you might want to see me on video because you're like, what is she talking about? Is that going to make me less valuable? If I decided not to put, so if you listen to me, I do have purple streaks now. I used to have blue streaks in my hair, but now it kind of blends. Does that make me less valuable? Have you ever seen somebody who's got tattoos all over their body? Does that make them less of or more than? Sometimes I envy them because they can sit through it and go through all that because that's a little bit of painful. But when are we going to love and value ourselves enough to appreciate who we are? And what steps do I start working with my clients to get them out of that envy and that jealousy? And it's starting to love yourself. What are the little things you can do with yourself? This goes back to my last show, Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, starting with that mirror. Because I do stand in front of the mirror and I do love myself and I do talk to myself and I praise myself. I could go get Botox in my forehead for my wrinkles, but you know what? I deserve those wrinkles. I've worked hard for those wrinkles. And this past weekend, I took a picture with my daughter. We went roller skating and I smiled. And my daughter said, Mom, that's the one of the first genuine smiles. And I love now that you smile because I forced smiles before and you could tell they were forced. And now that they're genuine, I see a difference. I see that. I see what I was envious of other people. I see it now within myself. And it was taking those baby steps to start valuing myself and seeing myself differently and letting go of wanting to be perfect because we will never achieve perfection. We will never achieve perfection. And I think that's why we all have a sense of jealousy because we see what somebody else's possess as being perfect, or we're envious because we see them as perfection. So why? When are we going to start seeing that within ourselves? And it starts with just loving ourselves and seeing ourselves as who we are and just loving the way we are and getting in front of that mirror. Shoot, I've been gray, pure gray, my blonde gray for over 5 years. So I'm 55. So I want to say I started growing it out 7 years ago, maybe. Yeah. I think after my mom passed away, I did color it once, but then I was like, no, I'm not doing this again. And I embraced it. And you know why I embraced it? Because I was envious of those perfect gray haired women. And then when I grew mine out, I was one of them because I let go of that. I let go of the envy and I started seeing I've got beautiful hair. Wow, I deserve every single gray hair on my head. I've gone through trauma and I've survived. I've had 3 kids. I survived. I'm on my second marriage. I've survived. I survived domestic violence. I survived rape. I survived an abortion. I have survived life. So my gray represents my survival. So I am happy with it. And I'm not envious of anybody else's hair color because I'm envious of myself. Then starting to just go from there and look in the mirror and start. I'm envious of my blue eyes because my parents had the gorgeous blue eyes and my dad had Frank Sinatra baby blues. And I'm envious that I have his baby blues. And just going through my body and seeing it, I'm envious of my own self and changing the narrative, not to say envy, but changing the narrative to tell yourself you love yourself and go through it. And then start writing what my coach started and what I do with my clients is these evidence lists. What these evidence lists do is it writes down what are you feel you lack and where's the evidence not to back it up. So if you don't think you're smart or you think Joe Schmo is smarter than you, but how are you smart? And go through and make the evidence about yourself. How are you a good friend? Well, because I care for my friends. I give my friends the space that I give my friends space for us, for me to listen. I give my friends space for them to talk when they have problems. I give my friends empathy when they need a shoulder to cry on. I give my friends the ability to make the decisions that they want to make for themselves, not what I think is best. Because what I think is best is what I think is best for Sandee, not for them. So it's starting to create these lists. So you start being envious of other people and you start just talking to yourself about what makes you exceptional, what makes you incredible, what makes you the person you are, what stands you out from everybody else, what's your best quality. And you'll find you've got many best qualities. You start writing down what's your best quality and you really dive deep into yourself, you'll realize you have a whole page of best qualities. Because when we start focusing on what our qualities and what we have to offer, we realize that we've got just as much as the people we want to continue to scroll through on social media and look at. And then just create these lists that bring value within yourself and worth within yourself. And you will see that, yeah, because I can tell you, if someone walked up to me and said, "Hey, I'll give you $10,000 for a tummy tuck or a vacation to Italy." Tummy tuck, nope. Vacation to Italy. And that's what I think is the biggest setback in our world is we put value on something external within ourselves, external, because most of the time we're envious of external things, not internal. External things instead of things that will definitely truly bring us joy, happiness in our lives. Because when I started doing laughter yoga, that was a big turning point for me too, because I was able to bring joy in my life. And that's what I was envious sometimes of other people was look how happy they are. Look how joyful they are. Why can't I be that way? Well, now I am that way. And I spread that to other people. I go out and laugh and get other people to laugh and bring that joy into their life. And that makes them happy. And they start seeing past all the BS that they have in life. and they start letting go of the things that we see other people. That's not necessarily what we're looking at. Because when we do put on all those layers and change everything about us because of what we think of other people or what we see in other people, we're not changing what is underneath of us. So, what is underneath of us that is the value? So, again, it is time for our last break tonight. And you're listening to Sandee Byrd on Emotional Elevator on the Inspired Choices Network. And like I said, I am an expert on the topics I talk about because these are all the challenges or struggles that I have overcome in my life. And I have so many tools in my toolbox that I work with clients with, and I teach them how to use them. So if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me at sandy@emotionalelevator.com or on my personal coaching email, sandeebyrdcoach@gmail.com. Come to my website, Sandee Byrd. It is getting redone. And like I said, I was so envious of other coaches out there that had these taglines or names. And I decided I am Sandee Byrd and I am authentic and I am who I am. I don't need, I'm still resonate to that spirit owl, and you'll see it right here in this necklace. But I don't need a tagline. I just need to be me. And that's what's going to want you to work with me or reach out to me because I'm me. And all of these topics lead to each other. And I want to help people realize that all you got to do is start bringing joy and happiness and love within yourself. And all of these challenges and struggles you've had will start dissipating, will start fading away. So we are going to go on our last break, or I'm going to continue to talk. So let's go on that break. And when we come back, I'm going to continue talking about how to elevate your emotions.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back. We only have stumbled on that word. We have short amount of time left. And see, that's what I like about being on Inspired Choices Network. This is a live show. So when I stumble and fall, I stumble and fall. And that's what being real is, because you stumble and fall. Because think about all the shows you watch. How many takes do they have to make it perfect? As I do the little, the quotation marks, perfect. How many? Me, I get one shot at this show. So you are getting me in the raw because I only get one shot. They don't go back through and start editing on a live show. They don't stop it, pause it, freeze frame your life. And this is what I like about Inspired Choices Network. And this is why I'm here, because I like it being raw. I like having conversations that are just real and talking about topics where no one's telling me, no, you shouldn't talk about this, you shouldn't talk about that. People might not resonate with that because I'm talking about things that I'm an expert on, things in my life that I've overcome. Am I 100% overcome? Oh, absolutely not. But I give tools to my clients and tools to people on how to start working on these. Is there times where I'm envious of something? Oh, yeah. Wow, that dress on her. Wow, I really like that. Doesn't mean I might run out and get the dress, but that's still a form of envy because I really want that. But am I okay if I don't get it? Yeah. And think about what I've kind of talked about with envy and how we scroll through social media or how we look at somebody and we're like, man, I wish I looked like her. I wish I could get filler in my lip and my lips be perked up. No, I don't. No, I don't. But there was times in my life where I wanted to be that perfect person. But I also know that there was times in my life where there was people that were jealous in my life that caged me and made me feel less than because I was greater than. So think about that. And how many people do you look up to, whether it be a friend or something, but then when they have a little bit of we all have parts of our life where there's a little bit of a mental break. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, they look so perfect. Yeah. It's like that perfect house you see. And then you walk in and it's chaos. We put on these facades in life. So just be you and just be your authentic self and just bring all your qualities and write down all your qualities. You will be amazed. Like I tell people, you will be amazed. The first time I was told to write down, like I was feeling a lack of, and I can't remember what it was. Well, write down times where you didn't feel. And all of a sudden I'm still writing and I'm still writing and I'm still writing and I'm still writing. And then there was a moment where I was envious of somebody. Well, why are you envious of them? Because they've done this, they've done this, they've done this. Well, have you ever done that? And then I'm continually writing. So look at what you're envious of somebody and then write down, have you ever done that? I was envious of entrepreneurs because other coaches, wow, look at them. Yeah, but they've been doing it for 10 years, Sandy, and you only been doing it for 2. And I started having that conversation with myself. But they've been pounding the pavement. I've made personal connections. And I go out and I network within my community. And my clients come to me because they're my clients, not because they're their clients. And why do they have those clients and I have these clients? And why do these businesses want me to come do laughter yoga with them and Lego Series play and all these other things I have to offer? Because that they're attracted to that part of me. But if I go to what other people are doing, that's not meant for me. That's meant for them. But can I see what I do? And that's what I like talking to people about. Write down, why are you, that's envy. So why are you envious of them? Well, because this, and this. Yeah, but have you ever been this, and this for yourself? And then they start writing and realizing, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. It's incredible. Same thing as if you really sat there and took that mirror on the wall and looked at yourself and had those conversations, you'd be amazed too. You'd see you and you would start loving you. So you don't need to scroll through social media. Start looking at yourself. Start taking those selfies. I never liked them before either. But you've been listening to me on Emotional Elevator on Inspired Choices Network, and I am Sandee Byrd. And like I said, you can always get in contact with me. SandeeByrdCoach@gmail.com, Sandy@emotionalelevator.com, or SandeeByrd.com. That's my website. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for listening to the Emotional Elevator Show. Sandee returns Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, Start elevating your emotions and stop riding the emotional elevator that is stopping you from living the life you deserve.